Welcome back. I've got a Blu-ray update. Most of this update is going to be the Scream Factories because a lot of these Scream Factories were low in quantity and getting ready to be out of print. So I went and picked up a lot of them, tried to flesh out my collection a bit. But I have a few other titles here to show as well. First up is a film I don't see a lot of people talking about is Dead Kids. And this is a New Zealand film. I guess it really can be categorized into slasher category, starring Louise Fletcher. It was written by a guy named Bill Condon, who did Gods and Monsters, and it's set in Illinois. I guess because Bill Condon is from Illinois, but it's really a New Zealand production. It's about some kids that are being the subject of experiments, and the experiments turn them into killers. My favorite killer is there's a kid that wears a Tor Johnson mask when he does his kill. I thought that was good. But I give this one I like this one. I remembered it. I remembered liking it more than I did on rewatch. And upon rewatch, I wasn't as enamored with it. Mainly because I think the characters are so forgettable. There's really nobody in this that's memorable. Like I say, my first reaction to it was the Tor Johnson mask. I mean, there wasn't... Louise Fletcher was okay in it, but it just didn't have any memorable characters, which I think is one of the standard downfalls of most slasher films. Anyway, I gave it a 6 out of 10. It was directed by a guy named Michael Laughlin, who did Strange Invaders. This release is a Severin release, and it's got quite a few special features. I think there's an audio commentary, a couple audio commentaries actually. Pretty good though, not bad. Not what I remembered it to be. I liked it more in memory than I did actually after having watched it, but okay, it was good. Next up is 1998's Shadow Builder. This is an MVD release. This is based on the Bram Stoker novel about a child who is kind of hovering between good and evil, and this demon is coming from hell basically to try to get the kid. It stars Michael Rooker as a priest, and it also has Tony Todd playing like this electrician type guy, which I think Tony Todd was drastically underutilized for this. And I also think Michael Rooker was essentially miscast. As much as I love Michael Rooker, I just don't think that he was cast very well in this role. I gave it a 5 out of 10. I just thought it was a meandering kind of plot. The guy that directed it is really mainly a special effects guy, Jamie Dixon. He didn't do much directorially other than this, but this does have some special features. It's got a audio commentary and a making of, which I'll probably check out at some point. Okay, next up are the Scream Factories. Let's see. Let's do... I guess we'll do The Outing and Godsend. So this was a double feature release that was going out of print. I watched both. The Godsend was a really good movie, starring Angela Pleasance as this pregnant woman who delivers her baby with this strange family and then just abruptly leaves the kid. And the kid turns out to be evil incarnate. And starts basically killing off the family members. Really good stuff. I'm going to cut this phone off. People won't leave me alone. Oh, God damn. Yeah, The Godsend, I think, is a 7 out of 10. It's a very good horror film. It's kind of a slow burn. Directed by a female director named Gabrielle Beaumont. I thought she did a fantastic job. I'd like to have seen her do more. She mainly did like TV shows like Star Trek, and I think she did some detective stuff. She did a few movies. Well, it's not all that. She also does Hill Street Blues. But yeah, I liked The Godsend. The Outing, 1987, however, I thought was not as good. And again, this is going to be an issue of just the lack of memorable characters. It's about a group of kids that find this magic lamp this witch had, and basically the lamp will, besides granting you wishes, could also has supernatural powers and get you killed. It's okay. It's a decent flick, but I think that it's another one that kind of meanders along with uninteresting characters. I give it a 6 out of 10. Next up, 1992's The Vagrant with Bill Paxton. Now I love this one. I give it a 7 out of 10. The director is a guy named Chris Wallace, who did Fly 2. This is a good one. Bill Paxton plays this preppy business executive that had just bought this house, and the house, I guess, lives next door to this abandoned dump area, and this homeless guy basically is like living at this abandoned area right next to his house, and he's having to watch this homeless guy cook meals and just do disgusting stuff. Ultimately, the homeless guy intervenes and invades the house, and it gets very, very interesting. Bill Paxton makes the movie. I mean, without Bill Paxton, it wouldn't be any good, I don't think. But it was very good, very enjoyable, 7 out of 10. None of these have special features. These from Scream Factory, none of these. Next up is a couple action flicks. First up is 1973's I Escaped from Devil's Island with Jim Brown and Christopher George. Jim Brown's a really great actor. I think he did a great job in this. It's basically a Papillon type story where you got him and a couple other guys, including Christopher George, trying to escape this war camp. It's low budget, but it's fun because of the characters. I mean, and Jim Brown is the main one. He's really good, really interesting to watch. And Christopher George kind of makes a good kind of compatriot with him. The guy that directed it was William Whitney, who did a lot of westerns. And then I gave this a 7 out of 10. And then I watched Who Dares Wins, or the other alternative title is The Final Option, which is a terrorism film. Basically, these terrorists are going to try to take over an embassy and force the country to shoot off a nuclear weapon under the more than naive, just insane idea that, well, if we can demonstrate the impact of what will happen with a nuclear weapon, everybody will get rid of their weapons. Okay. That's basically their premise behind capturing the embassy. So it's a siege movie. The last 30 minutes is really interesting with the government sending in people to try to retake the embassy. It was good. I give it a 7 out of 10. Decent thriller. The guy that directed this one was Ian Sharp. And he's done mainly dramas. Yeah, 7 out of 10 on that one. Next up is 1958's I Bury the Living, starring Richard Boone. And Richard Boone is a really good actor. I really like him. And the guy that directed this is Albert Band, who is Charles Band's father. Basically, Richard Boone is running this. He's a cemetery attendant, or a manager of this cemetery, and in this cemetery, in the business office, they've got this map of all the plots of land, and then they've got these pegs that they put into the cemetery to indicate who gets which plot. And Richard Boone figures out or discovers that by putting in a black pin, he can actually cause the death of the people that are alive, and It's an interesting story. It has a twist ending, which I kind of liked, but I thought it was a very good film. The print on this, whatever they did to remaster this, was unbelievable. I mean, this thing it's a black and white movie, but it just popped. Very good. I've seen this movie multiple times, and this is another example of when you have a high quality print, remastered print, how much better a film can come across to you than, say, watching it off YouTube or something like that. This is a good example of it. Because I think I initially rated this one like 5 out of 10, and then I bumped it to 7 out of 10 after watching the Scream Factory release. Next up this was just a blind buy. I bought this because it was apparently going out of print, and that's Dementia. I think this is a 2015 film. This was really good. I was really surprised. Mike Teston did this film, and apparently he also did a follow-up to this called Dementia 2, which I haven't seen. Basically, you've got this supposed war hero that has dementia. He's old, and he's starting to lose his mind, and the family decides they can't deal with it, so they're going to bring in a kind of a caretaker, a home health nurse, who ends up sort of living there. There's a lot of twists. I don't want to talk. That's where I'm going to end it, because I think this is one that you really want to go and check out, either buy the print of the film or the Blu-ray, or watch it online somewhere, because it's a really good film, and it's got an interesting couple of twists to it that make it more than just a drama about a guy going senile. It's a lot more than that. Really good film. 7 out of 10. I enjoyed the hell out of it. This actually is a Blu-ray DVD combo. Next up, we're going to talk about The Intruder, 2016. This is directed by a guy named Travis Zarini, who also did the Cabin Fever remake, which I haven't seen, but I don't really want to see it. Intruder, 2016. I mean, this is a home invasion film, and the problem with this one is it really doesn't have anywhere to go. It's just a whole series of scenes where the guy's in the background, unbeknownst to the girl, and he's like checking out her medicine cabinet, and he's taking a bite of her apple and putting it back, and he's kind of stalking in a closet watching her sleep. I mean, it doesn't go anywhere. I mean, in the end, it has a very blah ending. I mean, there's just nothing about this that was persuasive at all. So I think I gave it a 5 out of 10. I mean, it was well made. I actually gave it a 6 out of 10, but it's not because it was a good, compelling story. It was just, I thought it was technically well done. It was just a very forgettable home invasion film. All right. Next up is Tank 432. This is a 2015 title directed by Nick Gillespie, and this is the only film he did. Apparently, he's buddies with Ben Wheatley, so this was his only stab at directing, and I can kind of see why. The premise of this I thought was kind of interesting. You've got a group of mercenaries that you just kind of get thrown into this scene with these mercenaries, and they have a couple of they've captured a couple of people, and they end up, when they're crossing over some area trying to get away from where they think the actual worst of the combat is, they run across this basically this military vehicle that they take shelter in, and they end up locking themselves into this thing, and so the rest of the film is shot with them dealing with the fact that they can't get out of this piece of machinery. There is a twist to it. You can see it coming a mile away. Yeah, I mean, it's well acted, but it's kind of like Intruder in a different way, in that it's just very forgettable. You don't really care. I mean, you don't even know, you really find out nothing about these characters, why this is going on, or you're just kind of thrust into the situation, and it doesn't really ever go anywhere. So yeah, kind of a disappointing watch. I give this one, again, I gave this one a 6 out of 10 because I thought it was technically okay, just not a really interesting story. Next up, 1991's The Crawlers with our good old buddy Joe D'Amato. Uh, this is like a Day of the Triffids ripoff. This is a film about the contamination of the forest, and basically these tree limbs are killing people. And man, it's a meandering film too. It's very talky. It's just, even when you get to the kills, there's only really one memorable kill in the whole thing. So very disappointing watch as well. I thought the premise was interesting, but with the radioactive trees. But other than that, I thought it was uninspired. So I gave this one a 5 out of 10. And again, all these don't have. There's no special features. Some of them have a trailer, and that's about it. I think that's going to do it for the Scream Factories. So let's see, I got a few more titles here to go over. Don't Panic. These are some Vinegar Syndromes. And I think Don't Panic has a different title. "1988, Don't Panic." Directed by Ruben Galento, a Mexican director. This is about a Ouija board, kind of a precursor to Witchboard. It unlocks basically a killer with a medieval blade. He's very partial to this blade, and it's okay. I mean, it's decent. The acting and dialogue is really, really bad. It's so bad that it's entertaining. I mean, it's. I don't know whether there was an issue with language differences or not, but the acting is just flat, and the dialogue is so badly written and so hilarious. The two, when you've got a bad actor, a flat actor, combined with really bad dialogue, what you get is actually a good thing. It's a witch's brew of a bad movie that's entertaining as hell. So yeah, I gave it a 6 out of 10. It's not good. But it's got some entertaining moments. I'll give it that. The Vinegar Syndrome release is outstanding as usual. Here's the alternate artwork. It's amazing what they're doing to these really bad films. It makes them worth watching, actually. And of course, there's the usual special features. You've got commentary and some interviews. And here's the slipcover. All right. Next up is a film that I think deserves a lot more discussion. This is a Masters of Cinema release for White Dog, 1982. Sam Fuller directed this. Christy McNichol stars as this struggling actress who accidentally runs into this white dog with her car, and she didn't kill the dog. She takes it to the vet, and turns out the dog survives. She can't find the previous owner, so she keeps the dog. Well, the dog turns out to hate black people and is trained to attack black people on sight. Yeah, I mean, obviously this would never get made today. The cancel culture would never allow this to get made. Even though I think the message of this is very clear from a racism perspective. But yeah, cancel culture would never allow. I'm surprised this hasn't made the list of films that cancel culture wants, stricken off the record, kind of like Gone with the Wind. They want Gone with the Wind to never be watched again. Well, take a shot at White Dog. Great film. Bottom line, though, this is a great film. a great movie. This is how, if you want to have a unlike, and I would use the comparison to Black Christmas 2019, which is just a shit show of in your face, Me Too type stuff, cancel culture stuff. If you want to make a movie about racism and do it in an artistic, in an interesting way, first of all, an interesting way, an artistic way, a somewhat of a subtler way than right in your face with the dialogue like from Black Christmas. Check this. White Dog should be a textbook on how to do that. Great movie, fantastic movie. Highly recommend it. It deserves its treatment here from Masters of Cinema status. It's got a booklet, and the only thing it was kind of short on special features. In fact, not only is it short, other than the booklet and a trailer, that's all there is to it. But the movie is fantastic, and this print, this remastered print is pristine. It's just fantastic. Great movie. 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10. Next up is one of my favorite slasher films from 1980. And that is Fade to Black. Dennis Christopher stars as this. I think it's Dennis Christopher. Yeah, he stars as this. Dennis Christopher, by the way, has been in a lot of films. Dennis Christopher stars as this movie-obsessed kid that he just basically snaps and he starts recreating murder scenes from movies. He dresses up like the Mummy to kill somebody, and he dresses up like a gangster, like Mickey. So yeah, it's a really fun movie. It's a good movie. Mickey Rourke is in this in an early acting role he had. I mean, he looks almost unrecognizable than he does today, but he very thin, totally different looking than what he looks like today. I love this. I love Fade to Black. I think it's a highly underrated slasher. Directed by a guy named Vernon Zimmerman, who I don't think he did very much. He only has 2 or 3 screen credits. But yeah, Fade to Black is an excellent film. I give it a 7.5 out of 10. You've got Vinegar Syndrome. You've got an alternate slipcover here. And then you've got, actually it's the slipcover from the inside artwork. But yeah, and the alternate artwork is, so it just, those 2 different covers. Good stuff here from Vinegar Syndrome. Love that, love it. Glad Fade to Black finally got a release. Next up is another slasher film. And this is Silent Madness, 1984. This is another fun slasher film. It was filmed in 3D. And actually you can watch this in 3D. I did not do that. I think it's even got glasses. I know it does. It comes with 3D glasses. I may check that out just for grins. I mean, when you boil it down, the 3D is only for 2 or 3 quick kill scenes. Like there's an axe getting thrown towards you, and I think there's a guy gets plunged with this poker, and it comes coming towards you. But in general, I mean, the film's not really 3D, other than for those few action kills. This is a straight up story where you've got a maniac that gets loose from an insane asylum, and he's just killing people. And the psychiatric hospital administrative staff is trying to cover it up, saying, well, the guy that is dead. He's not really running wild and amok. I mean, so they're trying to cover their own ass rather than solve the problem. This one has some. The reason this is good though is because it has some great characters. The two hospital orderlies that are sent out to try to get this guy back to the hospital are just grimy, nasty, lovable characters. I mean, I loved watching the two orderlies are probably my favorite in the movie. And there's some good kills in here. I would say, let me say, not good kills, creative kills. Probably a better way to describe it. Anyway, I give this a 7 out of 10. The killer itself is just a guy. I mean, it doesn't really, but there is a backstory to why he's crazy and why he's killing people. Um, so, I mean, I think overall it's a 7 out of 10. I think maybe they could have done something a little bit more compelling with the killer himself. But yeah, it's still a 7 out of 10. All right, what else we got here? Some other pickups. I did get the Beastmaster in 4K, which so many people have shown this off. It's got a booklet and a really nice thick box. So many people have shown this thing off, though, that I'm not going to spend too much time on it. And of course, here's the slipcover. Yeah, that's the Beastmaster. I've watched it before. I just haven't checked it out on 4K. Next up is the indicator title, I, Monster. This is Christopher Lee starring as this is basically a take on the Jekyll and Hyde films, a story rather. This is their take. This I think is an Amicus film. This is the Amicus take on Jekyll and Hyde. I like this film. I grew up with it. A lot of people aren't going to like it because it's very talky, and it's really a lot of it is shot inside, really in kind of his laboratory. He spends a lot of time in his laboratory, and so from a perspective of scenes and things like that, there's really only 2 or 3 different locations, so it's kind of got an uninteresting location, but it is Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing, so I mean they're always interesting to look at. I haven't checked out this release yet or the special features, so. And I did partake of the Indicator Fu Manchu collection. And I have most of these on other Blu-ray releases. Look at this booklet. This is pretty nice. This is a monstrous booklet. This thing is looks like this thing's like 100 and some pages. 130 some pages. You also get a poster. Let me look at this poster to see if I want to hang it up. It's not bad. I might find a spot for it upstairs in the movie room at some point. You also get lobby cards. And then the films themselves. So you got The Castle of Fu Manchu, which I think is the, if I'm not mistaken, this is the Jess Franco directed one. The Blood of Fu Manchu. What's nice about these releases is that a lot of the Fu Manchu films, particularly when I was growing up, were heavily edited. I saw them on TV and they were just butchered. So I'm looking forward to getting the best quality print, unedited print I can get. This is Vengeance, and then Brides, and then The Face of Fu Manchu. So yeah, it's nice to have these finally in one nice location. Looking forward to diving into those at some point. Very soon, actually. I actually may just come back and give you some reviews of these films individually. I do like the Fu Manchu films. Last item. William Greffey collection. He came from the swamp. And William Greffey is a director, Florida independent low-budget director in the 70s. And he has a lot in common with Herschel Gordon Lewis. A lot in common. And stylistically, I don't think they're similar. Budget-wise, they probably are very similar. But the stories and the films themselves that they shot are very similar. You know, they dabbled in horror. They dabbled in drug films. They dabbled in kind of redneck hillbilly horror. So yeah, I mean, I think they're very similar in that respect when you go through the set. at least when I went through the films, this watch, I just started to think this. I feel like I'm watching kind of another Herschel Gordon Lewis box set. Whiskey Mountain, I think, is one of his best films. This is his William Griffey's Deliverance, and it's I think it's a very good film, maybe his best, which is not, and that's not saying much. I mean, these are low budget, no budget, films, so you have to have it in kind of context. But Whiskey Mountain was 1977. John Chandler and Christopher George is in this. John Chandler plays a great villain. Yeah, I like this one a lot. 7 out of 10. Next up is, and by the way, this has, and I just watched it too. This has a 2-hour documentary about William Griffey, and it really goes beyond that. It goes into independent filmmaking, really in Florida, regional filmmaking. It lightly covers Herschel Gordon Lewis and some of the producers and some of the background of the film, but basically it's kind of a blow by blow of William Griffey's films. Really good stuff. Next up is The Naked Zoo, and this is 1970. Now this is his druggy movie. It's well acted, surprisingly well acted. It's about a guy that he's into. He's kind of a gigolo, basically, and he's going around. He basically takes on older women for money, and he's also just kind of a pervert, and he likes to dominate women. So it's kind of got some horror elements to it as well. But I liked The Naked Zoo quite a bit. Not great, but I thought there was some passion in the acting in this one, so I gave it a 7 out of 10. All of these, I think, have commentary tracks with Frank Henenlotter, and that alone, Frank Henenlotter commentary should be worth the price of admission right there. Next up is The Hooked Generation, and this is a druggy movie, and this is not very good. I think this had an alternate title. I could be wrong about that. Electric Shade. No, it's the Hook Generation. Yeah, it's about some Florida drug traffickers. And this has got John Chandler in it, who is great in this as well. I mean, he's very good in it. But other than that, it's kind of dull. It's a drug trafficking movie. I give it a 5 out of 10. Other than John Chandler, it's pretty uninspiring. Sting of Death is probably one of his most famous films, or well, not famous, more like well known. If you know William Griffey and you know that, it's either this or Death Curse of Tartu. But this is 1966. In fact, I think Sting of Death was made, and then Death Curse of Tartu was made quickly in 7 days because this was so successful, and to kind of try to make it as a double bill. It's a human jellyfish, but the guy's dressed up as wearing the jellyfish outfit is ridiculous. He's dressed up with basically a deep sea diver suit on. You can see the break between his pants leg and where the fins of his feet are. I mean, he wears this bag over this. Basically, the jellyfish head is a bag, like a garbage bag. There's a scene in here where you've got all the jellyfish in the water. There's a bunch of jellyfish in the water, and what it looks like is just garbage bags or zip tie bags with Mardi Gras beads. It's ridiculous, man. It's just awful. I mean, it's fun, but it's unbelievable. I gave this one a 6 out of 10. Yeah, I think I gave this a 6. I could go. I mean, it's pretty entertaining. The Deal Sedaka scene. So they got this scene where these kids are dancing. All of William Griffey's films have some kind of a group dance scene or group drug scene or something like that. But they play this song by Neil Sedaka of Do the Jellyfish. And of course they're flailing their arms around like they're trying to be a jellyfish. It's hilarious. I can't wait to listen to the commentaries on these with Frank Henenlotter. You do get a booklet, or not a book, it's a hardback book that goes through each of the films. By the way, I didn't cover it, but Death Curse of Tartu, I think I think it's his worst film. I think that I actually think the makeup for the guy in Death Curse of Tartu was very good, amazingly good. But man, it's a dull film. Most of it is just these guys traipsing around in the Everglades. I mean, it just never goes anywhere. Anyway, that's the William Grefé collection. I've been through all the films in the documentary. It's an enjoyable watch. I enjoyed it. All right, that's going to do it. 36 minutes later. Appreciate you watching.